Subscribe the Unique Academy's YouTube channel and press the bell icon for latest updates and videos.
A small body of determined spirits, fired by an unquenchable faith in their mission, can alter the course of history. Friends, this quote by Mahatma Gandhi aptly summarizes the historical event that we are going to study today, which is the American Revolution. On 4th of July 1776, the Continental Congress met at Philadelphia and adopted the Declaration of Independence. This was the severing of ties with the metropole Britain. Finally, the law-abiding subjects of British King George III were transformed into revolutionary patriots. Well, had it been just a rebellion, this event would not have been that significant. But what marks out this event is the alternate political vision that the founding fathers of America presented. And this political vision is very succinctly captured in this quote from the Declaration of Independence. It says, "All men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. That among these rights are right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness." This really emphasizes that every human being has certain rights by birth. No king or parliament has given it, and therefore nobody has the right to take away these rights from a human being. And with this vision, they set out to shape a new country, that is United States of America, that has ever since influenced the political history of the world. Today, let us study regarding this particular event of American Revolution. Whenever we study a particular event in history, it is imperative that we first understand the heart and nerve of the issue. So let us first understand what is this American Revolution, and then after that, we will go on exfoliating its various dimensions. American Revolution is a war of liberation that the 13 colonies of Britain in North America fought unitedly. At the end of this war, these colonies severed their ties with Britain for good. So they completely, in a way, dissociated with the metropole Britain and decided to chart their own history thenceforth. This gave birth to a new and powerful nation called as United States of America. This new country was shaped on the basis of ideals that the European Enlightenment had provided. These ideals can be seen not only in the revolution, but also in the modern constitution that the Americans gave to themselves, and which ever since has influenced the course of world history. This is such a significant event that every single learned individual of the world must actually take note of. Let us now try to take a review as to how, from exam perspective, we need to cover this particular topic. Let us study here the structure of this particular revolution. First, we will see how the American colonies developed. Why exactly these colonies were formed in North America. After understanding this, then we will see the relations that these colonies had with Britain. After that, we will take a review regarding a very important landmark in the course of US relations with the Britain, the 7 Years' War and Treaty of Paris. It is this threshold which started the downward spiral of the colonies' relations with Britain. After studying this, then we will study the course of events that actually led to the war and the final independence. After taking this review of events, then we will summarize the major grudges that Americans had against metropole Britain, which led them to actually fight this war of independence. Then we shall see the contribution of political thinkers and their thoughts. How they created a fertile ground for the American Revolution is what we will understand here. After doing that, we will take a note of the significance of this revolution for America, Europe, and then entire world. And finally, we will take a note of the heroes of the revolution, the founding fathers of America, whose basic contribution we must be aware of. So this is the structure of this particular topic. Let us start our discussion. To understand how the colonies of North America developed, we must first note the very seminal event of fall of Constantinople. In the year 1453, the city of Constantinople, capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, fell to the Ottoman Turks. And because of this fall, the entire overland trade route with Asia was now under their control and therefore more risky and expensive. This promoted several nations to actually look for alternate sea routes to Asia in general and India in particular. Leading amongst these countries were the countries of Portugal and Spain, and later many others followed suit. This launched a series of voyages through which a lot of discoveries of new lands were done. Mankind was not aware of the massive continents that were there on the western side of Atlantic. Europeans felt that since the world was round in a globe format, circumnavigation would someday lead to Asia. Little did they know that they would stumble upon a completely new world. This was the age of science and reason. Fired by this adventure, many European explorers came and explored new lands in North and South America. The leading names that we must remember over here are Columbus, who did explorations on behalf of Spain, John Cabot, who did it for the English. Then we have Amerigo Vespucci, in whose name actually after whom America is actually named. And finally, next one is Jacques Cartier, who did explorations for the French. On the basis of these explorations, the European countries were able to claim the right to establish colonies in the New World. Now let us take a note regarding who were the people who actually went and populated this New World, particularly the 13 British colonies. The people who came to America came with myriad different types of motives and reasons. Primarily amongst these, especially during the initial decades, were those who were seeking freedom of religion. Modern Europe, similar to medieval Europe in the initial years, was not really a place of tolerance. People were persecuted for their religious beliefs. And therefore, many communities such as Quakers, Protestants, Lutherans, Calvinists, seeking religious freedom, migrated en masse to America, where they could offer their prayers and practice their beliefs as they wished. Following them also came many convicts. America was treated as a penal colony by Britain. So many convicts who were to be transported were left in America. Later on, Australia was also made a penal colony. Apart from these convicts, also came adventurers and traders. Those bold and brave men who wanted to create a wealth of fortune for themselves in this new land were enticed towards it. Also, many landless laborers, landless farmers also came to America because of the enclosure movement in England. Thanks to the enclosure movement, many landless farmers were left without access to farming. America promised them fertile and virgin land, and many of them took this as an opportunity and came to America. Those who were coming were not only English. Several other nationalities also came. The Scots, the Dutch, the Germans, the French, Spanish, many other people were coming to these colonies. Because of this, myriad types of an eclectic combination of people who were coming to these colonies, it got a very liberal and cosmopolitan kind of an outlook. Of course, I say this in context of contemporary Europe. The challenges that these people faced in this new vast wilderness made these people individualistic and also very, very independent. Over the decades, a new kind of culture, which was rough and coarse as compared to Europe, developed in this region. But nevertheless, they were still connected with their common faith of Christianity and English language with the metropole England. Let us now have a look at the map of these colonies so that we get a geographical perspective as to where exactly these colonies were located. As you can see on the screen here, these colonies were largely confined to the eastern seaboard of America. These were broadly classified as the New England colonies in north, then the middle colonies in the middle region, and the southern colonies of Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Based on their geographical locations, these colonies developed typical kind of economy as well as society and culture. The northern colonies, since they had relatively less access to fertile lands, they developed forest-related industries. So sawmilling, shipbuilding were common over here. And so was trading. Boston was one of their famous ports. The middle colonies, on the other hand, had more of fertile and as well as virgin land, and therefore agriculture-related businesses dominated over here apart from trading. The southern colonies, on the other hand, had massive land accessible to them. Therefore, a plantation-based economy developed in this region. Since the lands were huge, they required a lot of labor, and there came in the angle of slave trade. A lot of black African labor was brought to these colonies and was used in plantation-related crops. Let us now take a review regarding what were the sort of relations these colonies had with Britain. First and foremost, for almost till say 2 decades before the Revolution, the relations between the colonies and Britain were largely friendly and amiable. The colonists took pride that they were subjects of the British Crown. This was because of the tacit kind of policy that Britain followed towards these colonies. This was later called as the policy of salutary neglect. It basically meant that as long as the British interests of mercantilism were upheld by these colonies, that is, the colonies provided raw material and market for finished goods, Britain generally left things to themselves. That is, they did not interfere in the internal functioning of these colonies. This was a win-win situation for both the parties. Thus, a lot of self-governing institutions were developed in these colonies. All of these colonies had national assemblies. Of course, they were directly elected, but with limited franchise. These assemblies had the right to pass acts for themselves. But the British were particularly finicky about the defense of these colonies, and therefore, certain aspects like appointment of governors and sending of military commanders was reserved by the Parliament itself. Further, to protect the interests of the British in terms of mercantilism and protecting the, you can say, security of these colonies, British Parliament retained with itself the right to pass certain laws that upheld basically the colonial interest of Britain. Thus, many acts were passed which later on became irritants in the relations with these colonies. The most famous, or rather infamous amongst them, is the Navigation Act. This act basically mandated certain stipulations on maritime relations between Britain and England, Britain and these colonies. Then Enumerated Commodities Act. This act said that certain commodities that were listed in this act, which were being traded with America, had to be first sent to Britain, where customs duties was levied on it, and then onwards these commodities could go to America. Thus, Britain ensured that all the trade with the colonies was routed through Britain, and in the process, it was able to levy certain duties on it. Similarly, the Staple Act of 1663 was another, you can say, limiting act which was passed by the British Parliament. But the good thing was that Britain does not enforce these acts very stringently. and therefore the colonies were largely left to themselves as far as the implementation was concerned, and it did not really cause any major issue between the colonies and America till certain point of time. Largely, the colonies also ensured that British supremacy and overall the interest of British mercantilism was never compromised. This is how the relations evolved until a particular event took place. This particular event is known as the 7-Year War and its treaty, that is Treaty of Paris. On the screen you can see this map which gives you the relations before and after this particular war and its treaty. As you can see on the screen, the pink colonies, the pink shaded region are the British American colonies. On the west, east of this particular river of Mississippi, this region was disputed between Britain and France. France, on the other hand, had access to a large part of southern today's Canada as well as Louisiana. Okay? Then in 1754, the 7-Year War between Britain and France starts. This war is basically fought to decide the irritants or issues between Britain and France as far as their colonies are concerned. In this war, Britain and its ally Prussia, and on the other side, France and its allies Austria and Spain, among others, were fighting. At the end of this war, Britain emerged victorious. And because of this victory, the relations in long term with the colonies changed. So let us take a review what exactly happened because of this war and the Treaty of Paris. The Treaty of Paris was signed in 1763 at the end of this war. With this treaty, the French influence in North and West America finally ended. So France had to vacate these lands of West and North America. With this, now the danger that the French posed to the British American colonies was once and for all gone. Naturally, this reduced the dependence of the colonies on Britain. Britain also got that disputed area east of River Mississippi, which we just noted. Spain exchanged Florida for Cuba from Britain. They mutually did an exchange or a swap where Florida went to Britain and Cuba was handed over to Spain. This basically increased the confidence of colonists. They had shoulder to shoulder fought with the British regulars in the 7-Year War. At the end of this war, the officers of the colonists had their baptism with fire. Many of them, like George Washington himself, actually learned the art of modern warfare during the course of this war. So now they were having trained officers of modern warfare at their disposal. France and its allies, on the other hand, were naturally dejected at their loss. So they were ready to extend any kind of support to the colonists in case they stood up against the might of Britain. Britain, although victorious at the end of this war, went through a grave financial crisis. The long war, officially called as 7-Year War, although the number of years in practice were 9 years, made Britain bankrupt. And therefore, Britain had to resort to certain measures to improve its economy. Let us see how this huge debt of Britain changed the relations with American colonies. At the end of this war, British Prime Minister Grenville basically made certain important changes as far as the policies of Britain vis-a-vis colonies is concerned. Prime Minister Grenville did two things. Number one, he raised certain taxes. And number two, he gave up the earlier policy or practice of salutary neglect. So the earlier laws that were passed by the British Parliament, but not stringently enforced, were now taken up with a lot of earnestness. This naturally started to become an irritant in the relations with the colonies. Further, the Crown came out with a proclamation famously called as the Proclamation of 1763. This proclamation basically said that the lands west of the Appalachian Mountains will not be encroached upon by the colonies. This was a promise given to the native Indian tribes who were living to the west of the Appalachian Mountains and were concerned that the colonies might expand over their lands. This promise reassured the native Indians, but at the same time angered the colonists because they sought the virgin lands across the Appalachians. Further, there were several unpopular acts that were passed during the course of next year and a half. These included the Currency Act, which basically withdrew a lot of undervalued currency of these colonies, which was printed during the course of the 7 Years' War. They passed the Sugar Act, which imposed taxes on import of sugar, which was being imported from the Caribbean. The most infamous amongst these was the Stamp Act. The Stamp Act said that every good produced in America, in these colonies, had to pay a certain tax to the government. And on doing so, a stamp was affixed on that particular good, signifying that the tax was paid. This also included, among other things, various different types of documents. Even newspapers and playing cards were supposed to be stamped after paying the due taxes. This was naturally not going to be taken lightly by the colonies. Further, the Quartering Act really angered the colonists. This Quartering Act said that the American colonists were supposed to give quarters or give place of residence to British troops who were posted in these colonies. This was a measure to cut down costs so that the colonists would also bear a part of the expense of maintaining British regular troops in the colonies. The colonists took offense at this, seeing that there was no need of maintaining British troops after the French had been gone from the scene post the Treaty of Paris. Further, many colonists also felt that this move was being done to ensure the control of Britain over the colonies. This naturally angered and inflamed a lot of passions in the colonies. This led to creation of the Committee of Correspondence in 1764. This committee, and later many such other committees, basically tried to foster a political unity amongst these 13 colonies who had had a very independent, largely kind of political trajectory. So it is like a stepping stone towards building up of a common political opinion amongst these colonies. The Stamp Act Congress, against the Stamp Act, passed the famous resolution of no taxation without representation. This was the famous cry coming from the revolution that shook the British Parliament in the days and months to come. A famous organization was created in this process called as the Sons of Liberty. This organization, similar to the committees, further then tried to foster a common political opinion against the metropole, which later became very significant in the course of the revolution. British people or British Parliament took back some of the unpopular acts, but within no time, they passed another unpopular measure. This time, this was the Townshends Act. This act levied taxes on many things which were not taxed earlier. And one of them was tea. Tea was a popular item of consumption, and a lot of people in the colonies, particularly in the New England colonies, took offense at taxes being levied on these products. Once, during the course of the protest against this act, some people from Boston, they entered into a scuffle with British regular troops, and that led to a firing incident which killed around 5 odd Boston citizens. That is the infamous Boston Massacre of 1770. This event sent a chilling message to the people of colonies that at any cost, Britain was determined to enforce its will. This had a counter effect though. Instead of being cowed down by this show of force, the colonists were even more further resolved to actually not put up with this kind of arrogance from Britain. The Tea Act passed in 1772 further soured the relations between the colonists and Britain. The Tea Act of 1772 gave the East India Company monopoly to sell tea to all the colonies of Britain. This was an emergency measure to actually help East India Company to come out of its financial crisis. Remember, this is a time where the dual government in India has ended. 1765 to 72 is the period of dual government in India started by Robert Clive. In the course of this period, the company's officials became very rich, but the company became almost bankrupt. So to enable this company to revive, this act was passed in the British Parliament so that East India Company could survive the financial crisis. This was naturally not liked by America. Why should a British company be given a monopoly to trade with the colonies? They therefore decided to protest, and this led to the very famous incident of world history, that is the Boston Tea Party of 1773. Disguised as native Indians, some American patriots entered into the port of Boston. They went to the ship of East India Company where tea was kept and flung that tea back into the sea. This was famously called as the Boston Tea Party. This event naturally enraged British public opinion and its parliamentarians. Therefore, they passed a series of acts which were intended to put some punishment on the colonies. These acts were called in Britain the Coercive Acts. Since these were very stringent acts, the colonists instead called them Intolerable Act, that is, they could never tolerate these kind of dictations from Britain. These acts were passed in 1774, after which the First Continental Congress of the colonies was called at Philadelphia. 12 out of the 13 colonies, Georgia excluding, met to decide the course of reaction because of these acts. These colonies together gave a sort of ultimatum to the British Parliament. They put forth certain demands which they expected the British to meet. These included demands about developing industry in America. Second, allowing American colonies to trade with other countries just like other countries did. And third, no taxation without representation. Britain responded in characteristic manner. Instead of actually meeting these demands, a war was declared over these colonies. At the Second Continental Congress, called after the start of the war, on 4th July 1776, the Declaration of Independence, drafted by Thomas Jefferson, was adopted by the Congress. This was like a persuasive essay presented before the world. The founding fathers of America made a case as to why America was compelled to sever its ties with Britain. They also laid out their alternate political vision as to how, after the war, they would like to shape their course of history. This Declaration of Independence continues to remain one of the most important political documents in the history of mankind. The war had started. Over the course of next around 6 years, the colonists fought with British regulars. Under the command of George Washington, who was already a well-known leader of armed forces, he had participated in the 7 Years' War. These Americans fought guerrilla as well as pitched battles against the British. In a seesaw of outcomes, ultimately, George Washington was able to outdo the British commander, Lord Cornwallis. And in 1781, at the Battle of Yorktown, finally, the British submitted and Lord Cornwallis surrendered. The war lingered on for another couple of years almost, at the end of which Britain finally conceded the independence of America. The Second Treaty of Paris was signed, and with this, Britain officially accepted the independence of the 13 colonies of North America. Friends, here we conclude the first part of this lecture. In a subsequent lecture, we shall discuss the basic grudges that Americans had against the Britain. Then we shall see contribution of political thinkers, and lastly, we will see the contribution of founding fathers and the significance of American Revolution in world history. Thank you.